Hi, welcome to Control Talk Now, your smart buildings videocast and podcast for the week ending February 28th, 2021. This is episode 391. Yes, Phil Zito, we realize that you have surpassed us and will continue to do so. So check out Phil Zito, the mini man, myth, the legend. But your co-host and mine is the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only secret agent man, Kenny, the Bionic Man from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Kenny Smyers. Kenny, welcome to the show. Big dog.
Oh, thank you very much, Eric. Can you believe it's going to be March here real soon? And I'm looking forward to spring really, really bad.
Me too, man.
I'm tired of the snow and the ice, but it's going to be 54 degrees here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So just saying that, even though it's raining, makes me...
You're going to put your shorts on and your wife beater and go outside and have a beer in the rain?
No, not yet. No, that's a little extreme, but I would like to go for a nice, get some fresh air, because I think as we have talked offline, it's getting kind of, it's like that cabin fever thing is a real thing. I think in COVID just totally, exacerbated that situation. But I think that you can see that the birds are Twitter pating again. So, I mean, just all kinds of good stuff showing the spring's coming. So, and baseball, I was getting some spring training news and everything. So,
yeah, no, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Well, we got a great guest that's coming on here in just a few minutes, Kenny. But I tell you what, I have just really been doing sort of a deep dive into blockchain and stuff like that. And I sort of see a vision of the future. And I'd be interested if our Controltrends community sees this as a possibility or not. But, I can see a day in the not too distant future where you're going to have a controller or an actuator. And in that controller, we've already got the smarts in it. It's going to go out to a blockchain module, and blockchain just connects stuff. I mean, if you haven't, we can't do a deep dive on blockchain now, but I think it's going to change everything. Where when that actuator starts to go bad, it goes, you got 2 weeks before this thing's probably going to fail. It'll send a message out via blockchain to, the local distributor, which will hopefully be Jackson Controls or Stromquist. And it's going to talk to a blockchain in our organization, and it's going to go, okay, we got 3 weeks, or maybe it'll be 3 months. So the manufacturer will get the data. We're going to need an actuator on such and such a date. It'll automatically generate a pick ticket at our thing or your thing, and it'll ship it out. So, 24 minutes before the controller goes bad, it just arrives right at the job site. And meanwhile, the payments are taking place. Your accounts payable people are not having to get involved because the blockchain is just transferring money from their account to your account. And if it's in warranty, that's in there too. So if it's a warranty thing, it automatically happens. But I am just wondering if we are not at the cusp of a brave new control world. What do you think, buddy?
I think that's where you're a visionary. I think it's exactly what's going to come down to. I think in certain industries, they've put parts of that together, but not so succinctly with a proven technology that it's been pretty slow to adopt it. I think we saw blockchain the very first time at one of the Realcomm IBCom things.
We talked to the banker. Remember the lady was a banker?
Yeah, and she predicted, what ultimately happened, and you were on top of it, and it was tied into, the currency things. So the digital currencies. So Bitcoin or whatever version you prefer, but I see it being exactly that, because I have seen presentations where it was something to do with washing machines and wash detergents. The washing machine was monitored by the home base. These were industrial, for hotels or whatever, but it did that monitoring you're saying. And when something was out of whack, it sent an alarm that it was a high temperature, low temperature, whatever the things that were alarmed to it, and then it reordered its detergents. Yeah, and so it punched the list to I think it wasn't Amazon at the time, but it was one of the it was through the manufacturer. But but for distribution, I see exactly what your points are, and you're right. And I think too that as artificial intelligence, and some of the technologies that we know are coming, looming very close to us, like passive logic and 75 degrees, they're already creating the AI inside of the space where it's like it's living within the space, learning everything that's moving, anything that's drawing electricity, anything that's causing any kind of change of state, change of value. It annotates it, logs it, and it already puts it into the into the time spans and when it happened, when it occurred, how many times it happened. So it's doing all this intensive information gathering to do things that we right now are using the, basically an analog or linear way to do it. And it's going to be probably, it's probably about 3 to 5 years out, but we're already seeing it enter into our space, but down to that granular level of a valve.
Right.
Man, I think you're right. I mean, because there are manufacturers out there that have been putting in their own protocols and their own informational networks that they've already had them. And if you bought something after 2008, it's already there. It's just a matter of you bringing that to life within your application.
And I think the thing that we're blockchain, because you're right, I think all the pieces are there. I think blockchain might have been sort of a missing component as that gets more and more refined. But that just allows you to allows you to layer in agreements. So you and I agree that, I mean, forget about
contracts.
The contracts, like the leasing is now, I think the commercial real estate people are seeing more and more of that. You lease space from me, it's all on a blockchain, your payments go in at a certain time. If there's a problem, and this is where I think the controls can come in, right? So if there's a problem in your space, it's too hot or too cold, that goes into the blockchain and it goes, okay, Kenny, you get this percentage discount because we didn't deliver on the temperature or the humidity in your space for this amount of time, right? So,
or to your point, you can have if there's extended occupied periods that used to be you had a program that would measure all the times that people use their HVAC or conditioned air after the agreed upon occupied time. So it would create an additional bill. So I mean that would all be seamlessly agreed in that contract that you're saying, and it would eliminate people by the hundreds.
I think that I've mentioned this before. We've talked about it before, but I think the only commodity that we're not going to have in the next 10 to 15 years is jobs. It's not because people aren't capable and don't want to work. It's just you almost have this utopian type society, but where we can just create anything through digital printing or whatever. I think supply will not be a problem. But you're going to have, I mean, we jokingly said you're going to have the barista at Starbucks. It's, an artificial intelligence that you walk out, it looks like your wife or whoever you want it to look like, and it recognizes you automatically. It knows what your drink is. And, and actually, what the thing is, and you told me this the other day, you won't even be driving your car, right? Because you're going to, the autonomous vehicle is going to be there, and, you're not going to be paying car insurance. You're not going to be paying any of this stuff. And actually, you probably wouldn't even go to Starbucks because the autonomous vehicle will probably bring you your coffee at the exact same time, just the way you like it every single morning. So I think as things get more and more automated, there will always be some jobs, right? But the number of jobs, because technology, one definition of technology, in my opinion, is you get a piece of technology that eliminate, you could do a job with 10 people that used to take 100 people, right? And technology is just sort of eating its tail, so to speak. And so it's going to be, it's a brave new world. And I mean, COVID might have given us a little indication of, what it's going to be like where, you can do whatever you want to do, but you can't leave your house or whatever, but we're going to send you money and we're going to make sure you're taken care of.
Well, you had got me going on that whole thing with the Bitcoin, and I watched some of the videos that you're talking about. Sales and marketing software replaces them. Human resources, payrolls, vacation, that's going to be replaced. Recruiting, it's going to be software driven. AI recruiters, lawyer, contract review. What the AI can do in 26 seconds is review the entire library of contract review and have a 94% accuracy. In the same comparison, if we take a human team over a week and their accuracy is in the 80s, mid 80s.
Yeah.
Medical AI software to do tumor identification and the accuracy in the operations. And it's going to be a brave new world. It really is. And I think HVAC and building automation is in a very interesting area because it's going to have a foot in each one. It still has a foot in that physical world. It's not magic. You need a wrench, you need a human, but it has the opportunity to have the tools to support, the industry guidance,
Well, that's what I wanted to mention is that, I think our industry is just unique because I don't think you can be able to replace HVAC techs with robots. That's not going to happen. But like when we mentioned Bitcoin and the digital currencies, I mean, there is a whole infrastructure of special new hardware and stuff that has to mine these coins and so on and so forth. So the network that's having to be created for that, and it's apparently different than the internet, but these machines that do that have to have super cool temperatures. I mean, it's, data centers plus, right? So, which is going to be great because our guest is going to really get into sort of at the base of all of it is the sensor side of it. So,
well, and to your point, I mean, here we are talking about the ultimate sophisticated artificial intelligence, all the things you said. And by the way, the biggest industry that's going to get hit, just totally disrupted is the transportation. And you had started with that, but yeah. So I mean, imagine again, you've got this incredibly high tech, just almost like science fiction style of life that we're going to see probably in our lifetimes, 5, 10, 15 years. But it's still the basics have to be completed. So our guest this week is going to have, that to really tie it down, that lays over top. But the simple, the better, the more accuracy, the more the greater integrity it has. The basics are still very important. So we can talk high tech, but when it comes down to it.
Right. Well, as one of my teachers used to say, in God we trust, and all else get data. So how about introducing our guest? Because he is definitely a guy who helps get data for us.
Eric, I'd love to. We have a very special guest here today. And I mean, to set the stage here, we've got, we're coming out of the COVID, and we've got a lot of important things to do to make buildings as healthy as possible for the occupants. We're seeing some money coming around. The K through 12 is a $120 billion fund coming from the government. The CARES Act's out there. I don't know how many people are actually operating with it and making it happen. We've got great distributors like Stromquist and Jackson Controls. We've got contractors that are eager to put things in. So the technology, this is what we're going to talk about, technology. So we have Michael Hadt. He's the account manager, Midwest section or territory for RLE Technologies. And he's going to tell us about how we can marry all these things up. We've got the money, we've got the distribution and contractors, and now we have the technology, and we're going to put it all together in a seamless solution. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey. Welcome, Michael. Glad to have you. Listen, I'm probably going to have to cancel you now because Kenny mentioned the word married, and I don't know if you know it or not, but I'm on my 4th wife, and I am supporting too many people already through this marriage thing. So can we get a prenup before we get started?
Yeah, no sweat. I'll be sure to sign it before we get going.
Yeah, I've heard that before. But anyway, Michael, tell our listeners a little bit what RL Technologies does.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks you guys, and thank you to the community for letting me come on in and share a little bit more about RLE. RLE Technologies is a 36-year-old company based out of Fort Collins, Colorado. And our business is really built around mission critical monitoring and protection. Our mission statement is actually to prevent disasters, preserve our clients' reputation, and provide peace of mind. Pretty powerful when you think about it. Because, when you go to bed at night, some of the biggest concerns you have is, within your building and the operating environment that you have other occupants within. So, obviously in the data center marketplace, 100% uptime is critical. So making sure that you have, proper environmental monitoring, the different containment and airflow, the tiles and all that to make sure air is flowing into those environments is super critical. And, we're excited to be a part of that community for as long as we have. And, groups like Jackson and Kenny that have adopted RLE as well has really helped us to kind of break the mold inside of the building automation world as well. With the different ways you can connect technology ultimately to enable connectivity is ultimately something I get super excited about because it, more often than not, it's easier than it really needs to be. Or, maybe I'm not saying that right, but people think
it's probably easier than most people think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think RLE did a great job of simplifying it, taking the mystery out of it, improving, the case studies, improving the fact that wireless really does work. I mean, I think there was some, I can't drop Eric, but the pushback with wireless was always that it was spotty, and the viability and how good the network connections were, it was questionable. In the earlier versions, there were some false starts and things didn't work out. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I definitely want to get to the wireless technology a little bit later in the show because there is some really unique stuff there. But I kind of want to set the stage a little bit with the whole notion of monitoring and commissioning and why that's so important. And to people that are doing it's obvious, right? They've connected the dots and they realize that, if I've got this equipment or this environment, I need to protect it. But, you mentioned data centers, that's kind of a no brainer, but for the regular building owner, the K through 12, I mean, other people, are you seeing them adopting the monitoring yet? If not, why?
Yes, I am actually. I got a couple nice sized projects that are deploying our Wi-Fi temp humidity transmitter currently throughout an entire school building because they have great Wi-Fi network access throughout the entire space. Some of the historical challenges with connecting this technology in any building is, I think you already kind of alluded to it, was range, battery life. When the sensor fails, it fails on a stalled point. So now you're controlling off of a dead point that's not accurate, but you don't know that it's dead. There's a variety of functions and features that RLE built into the web user interface for wireless network metrics. We have an RSSI, response signal strength indicator that's standard built into the user interface that's going to tell you how good your signal strength is. And even on the Wi-Fi side, we found this out the other day as well in this project is they got great Wi-Fi throughout the entire building, but one far corner was not quite getting the readings that they needed. So with our RSSI signal strength indicator with our Wi-Fi sensor, we were actually able to tell them that they needed to add another access point out there. So, I guess that kind of leads me to some of the other connectivity myths or whatever, right? I mean, everybody always wants to use one wireless gateway to connect an entire high-rise building or an entire school campus, right? Well, that's not always realistic. So, but I will tell you, with our 900 megahertz radio, it's proven itself in some pretty complex buildings, not only the data center spaces, but ranges and distances inside of well, you made the reference, the classrooms, right? So the one building I was just at, we had some sensing in the gym, close to the gym area on one side of the building, but where they wanted to mount the network gateway was all the way on the other side in the back corner and another network closet over there. And to be honest, I mean, nobody really thought it was going to really make the range distance. And, about 500 feet away, from where the sensor sat, through a ton of different walls that were 2 foot thick, strategically placing a range extender. We're collecting data every 20 seconds now inside of that space.
Yeah, I think that's a great, I think that's the mystery. I think that's the actual, that builds confidence in the technology. Again, so you conquered the battery life and the feedback response signal strength indicator. Those were the two big, the people thought about, changing 100 batteries out every year or 2 years, and they had a black either. And then two is that the earlier models you didn't know, like you said, you could have a failed pointer and you didn't have any feedback to let you know. So the fact that you can actually have single strength indicator and you're getting a send back from the sensor is so critical now. That allows it to go into those more critical applications because you have that verification. So the integrity of the communication is vital. It's paramount. If you don't have it, it's a non-starter.
Absolutely. And there was here recently, I just did a webinar with RLE on Thursday, actually, and had about 4 or 5 slides really dedicated around wireless security. So I think that's another big issue I'd like to kind of put to bed for all the listeners is, RLE has spent the time to develop communication protocols on both the wireless side, or I should say the radio side and the Wi-Fi side. So our 900 megahertz radio here in the States and the 868 internationally, it's a one-way communication. It's not bouncing a signal back and then doing some control logic back at that unit. If you've heard any of my other presentations in the past, you probably hear me say the word enable a lot, because really at the end of the day, I believe we have a way to enable visibility and a migration connectivity into solving different problems. And to me, that's what gets exciting because, you don't have to have, all the capital dollars to retrofit an entire space to try to find out what's going on. Or, I know a lot of folks are using little handheld monitors. Well, as soon as you walk out of the room, it's kind of an invalid point anymore, right? So, if you get a little strategic and, you spend some time to really think about what you want to accomplish, you could actually provide some, I don't know if I'm going to coin this term, maybe it's already out there, but indoor air quality as a service.
Nice.
And
nice.
kind of connect data points and create visibility for a period of time to help you generate the end goals that you're looking at. Because I think in the community, one of the other big things is space utilization. Is that a fair point to make inside of the real estate community? Is how people are rotating in and out of different spaces. In fact, I think I got a good. Oh, I was going to put a screen share up there, but
yeah, we can do that. Well, real quick before you do that, Michael, and I definitely want to get the screen share up, but Kenny, I want to connect a couple of dots because data analytics and sort of have been around for a while, and the big challenge with the data analytics for the everyday person was, well, you had to have the sensors there, which means you might have to run wire to the sensor, so it to some people became cost prohibitive just because to get the information vis-a-vis running wired sensors was, could get kind of expensive, but this sort of eliminates that, right? I mean, because that's the other component, I think, is that you guys are very price competitive. So it really allows somebody to have a cost-effective way to go get the information. And then am I correct in understanding that you guys could have different sensors come through your platform, or do you, and so pretty much any sensor you want to hook up, you could, or you're limited to the kind of data you can get?
Great question. I appreciate you asking that. We do have a very scalable and flexible platform because ironically, I happen to have a few of them sitting here for you. So this is one of the transmitters. This is a wing thermistor. So any 10K2 sensor you want to connect to this, it could be a bullet probe, it could be a wall sensor, it could be anything. As long as it's 10K2, we can transmit that output. We have standard temp humidity, differential air pressure, water leak detection. Let's make sure to state that in these cold times, right? I don't know about you guys, but I've, for some reason, seemed to be seasonal, but I've seen a lot of videos online with pipes bursting and water blowing out everywhere. So be mindful of that. I guess since I'm on that topic, water leak detection is super critical, and it creates such a catastrophe and downtime for so many people. It's not just the cost to fix it, it's the displacement of people. What do you do with all them people now? Especially if you're in a high rise or even a condo residence, right? And you're on this 5th floor. I mean, water goes down, you got 3 floors of people that you got to relocate, plus all the insurance claims, right? So catching those issues quickly, I think, is super critical. And it's not just that, but other sensory points. Again, since you brought it up, our wing analog transmitter. This one's cool because, once again, I mean, sensor groups that exist already, they've already developed all the different sensors. It would kind of be, I don't want to say a wasted effort to go and try to create 4,000 different sensors, but why not just take a transmitter like this and allow it to be flexible enough to connect to any of them?
Right.
So let me interrupt you real quick. So,
Yep.
so carbon, CO2, carbon monoxide, anything that's putting out a 0 to 10 volts DC signal you can use your analog transmitter to send that to wherever it needs to go, but certainly
100%.
to the BMS.
Yep.
See, I don't people really get that yet. I don't think that's really hit center stage yet, and it has been recognized by the industry. So that's something I think we'll certainly want to keep dwelling on in the show.
And if you see just in the middle there's little jumpers, and that's how you're going to identify your 0 to 10, 0 to 5, or 4 to 20 milliamp output. And then there's a little equation on the inside you got to do in the wing manager. And it works every time. I mean, the engineers really understand how to do calculations and whatnot, and put a real easy equation together. And literally every time you do the equation with your high end, your low end divided by X, Y, Z, and boom, whatever's showing up on your sensor is showing up on the wing manager. And, again, that's just to speak to the security aspect of it real quick. It's the serial number and the reading is all that's ever being transmitted from the sensor to the wing manager. All right. So we're not transmitting firmware versions or, location data, things like that, which are risky, right? Those are things that other people are concerned about in somebody hacking into that and shutting down the system, right? So, we're obviously aware of that. And then, a couple of the other flexible sensor transmitters is an RTD transmitter. So there's a 1000 ohm platinum transmitter. That's really going to allow you to kind of be more extreme temperatures. There's a lot of storage facilities, freezers, refrigerators. I mean, even medical facilities that are trying to monitor some different things as well, food quality. So, we're a secondary way to apply an easy to deployable technology to trend some information and alarm on conditions that, may be hazardous to the product, or worst case, hazardous to the product, which could impact a human like you or I.
Michael, let me ask you a question. So I'm an integrator out there, and I've got my sensors that I like, and maybe I'm interfacing to a Link Spring or a Johnson or whatever system. So can I go directly into those systems with your signal, or do I go to the wing manager, and then from the wing manager, I can bring it into my front end system? How does that work?
Yeah. So the 900 megahertz transmitters are a proprietary signal, which is going directly to our wing manager. But then the nice part is that the wing manager then is dissecting that proprietary data packet and then exposing it inside of the wing manager, which has some trending and alarming capabilities. But the key is that they're able to basically integrate to any system, BACnet, Modbus, or SNMP, even the serial RS-45, MSTP, and RTU. It all comes standard on the wing manager. So, sometimes with wireless security, folks don't want to have devices connected to their IP. So we have the ability to basically use the IP for the web user interface on the wing manager to set it all up, and then just disconnect it and plug it into your RS-45 network, and you kind of get the best of both worlds, because you already got an MSTP network there, no matter what it is, if it was Link Springs or Johnson or Honeywell, or name the 5 other ones you want to connect to. And again, I mean, there's no licensing fees, so once you bought it, you basically own it, and you're going to be able to.
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that about the licensing fees for our audience? I want to make sure they hear that. There's no what?
Key feature, right? $0 licensing costs ongoing.
Yeah.
So, you get it, you own it. Every once in a while, we do come out with a little firmware update, but that was a big goal of the engineering team, and Don Raymond, owner, chief technology officer as well, was to really produce a product that was reliable, but yet was affordable, but didn't have that ongoing forever cost.
Yeah, I think for a lot of our integrators and probably building owners too, that's got to be just a really sweet feature there that, like you say, you buy it once, you install it. I love the fact that, you got the wing manager, so that part's going to be secure because you're only doing those 2 things, right? And then once you get it to your front end, then you need to pay attention to making sure it's secure from that point on, the data. But this just seems like a really elegant solution for somebody that's looking to bring data points in a very cost-effective way.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And it's flexible. So if your space changes a year or 2 from now, I mean, just pop the sensors off the wall and move them, rename them. And with a 12-year battery life, there's really no need to throw them away anytime soon. So they're going to keep kicking. And when they stop, you get a battery alarm. That's the other thing. So let's go ahead and let you know you got a low battery, probably 8 or 9, 10 years from now, no time real soon. So, at that point, you can distribute manpower to go ahead and resolve some of those, oncoming potential issues, should you want to stay ahead of those.
I'm wondering if I could get those 12-year battery life batteries and put them in my Tesla. Could we do that?
I'll bet you with enough of them, you can get it to go about a couple feet.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Why don't you guys share with me? I mean, I don't want to be the only one talking about how fun and cool it is to work with wireless technology, but outside of maybe these 2 points, what are some of the other advantages you guys would state about wireless technology?
I think the portability, and like you said, I don't want to use a wrong analogy, but it reminds me of Christmas lights. If the application's done and it's done its point, you can put it into your kit and then go take it to the next project or application and create the same, case information. We saw something just recently where everybody has to come up with some sort of ability to demonstrate that they've done something to purify their air, that they have a clean air. They're putting out stickers. You probably saw that national or international campaign now for wellness of buildings. So everybody has to talk about the building's status. People want to know before they go in it. In Pennsylvania here, the governor says if you do the clean air requirements, put in filtration, ventilation, so many air changes per hour, and do some sort of air purification, you can increase your capacity from 25% to 50%, which means a great deal to a restaurant owner, I can assure you. But then they give you a label, a sticker to put on the door front that indicates that you've gone through these measures and that you're complying with the requirements to have 50, to increase your capacity. So again, so people need to have, number one, there's a great demand now to bring immediate attention to a specific building or floor in a building and create a baseline measurement of what the air is like. And there's great units out there that you can put them in there for 5 to 10 minutes, and it runs through the particulate measurements, the VOC measurements, the humidity measurements, the temperature measurements, and it creates your baseline. And then from there you can move forward. So then you put the sensors in, you start creating exact temperature and humidity, well, plus or minus whatever the sensor qualities are. But then you're creating the response necessary, because then you're monitoring it and then you're archiving it. So then you now can meet these requirements and put the label on your door and take advantage of being ahead of your competitor, that you've taken these measures and you can demonstrate that they're in place and they're working, and people get a better sense of healthiness inside that building. So I think wireless is going to be a big instrument to be able to do that and demonstrate it. For a service company to put together a unique RLE technology package, portable package to demonstrate, what, a 24-hour or 48-hour, maybe a 7-day monitoring period. This is what your status is inside your facility now. And, then they can take active, specific measures to fix it, remedy it. And so I think wireless and the products that you have will become more and more important as they get more and more proficient in their industry. As contractors understand that they've got some clever tools to work with that weren't available, or if they were prohibitive in cost, or the technologies weren't proven. So I think by removing those pushbacks and headwinds, you're going to have a desire for contractors to have this kind of ability to demonstrate that they have done an indoor air quality survey. These are the components that they measured, and then having that ability to use that transmitter, the analog transmitter, you can put in more components there, like even the VOC monitoring,
That was what I was just writing down there, Ken. You reminded me of a conversation we were having the other day, and just imagine being able to deploy some different wireless technology in a building to create that baseline, but it's an ongoing baseline. It's not just what happened in that 10-minute period. It might be 7 days. So, we talked about that analog transmitter. Imagine putting that output, whether that's probably 0 to 10 output from a particulate matter sensor, and being able to move that around to different rooms and different floors, and leave it there for a couple of days while it's in an occupied state. That's where I kind of made the mention facetiously maybe a little bit about indoor air quality as a service, because really what are you trying to accomplish? Trying to validate internal conditions in a space to make sure that the occupants feel safe, that they're in a healthy building. I think that's one of the biggest challenges now. And I love the second point here, because I literally could walk into any building, connect all of my technology external to the IT network, and provide real-time trending and even email notification, depending on how I would want to set up some different thresholds and all that. So effectively, I've removed any obstacle that typically would prevent progress from moving forward. The other thing that I always like to kind of talk about is the overall scale and net impact of connectivity, right? What is connectivity in your guys' mind?
All the above. You're taking that data sensor point, the information there, and bringing it to whomever needs it, whether it's a universal point, or whether it's for a very specific, input for some sort of a algorithm that has, some sort of a energy saving or bringing on fans or whatever. So I think, and then taking it to the cloud, just like your diagram that shows that. Right. More importantly, there's so much available in the cloud now. So if you can get the information from that particular application or building or whatever space you're trying to learn from, and get it up to the cloud where the applications are running, and then all of a sudden you get some real value, because then it'll tell you not only what your levels are, but it could do the the monitoring, like you said, the alarming, alerting, let you know that things haven't gone well here, or you got to go look at this, or this stopped running, or whatever. So, to me, connectivity means that taking your phone, and taking that sensor information and get it to your phone, get it to the people in the organization, service technicians that need it, or anybody making a decision based off that information. Whether another thing you do is even the density. So when you start getting too many people in a room or whatever, you can learn about your CO2 levels. Bring in more fresh air. I mean, it's unlimited what you can do. It's just your own creativity.
I agree, and and it used to be, the question used to be to monitor or not to monitor. That is the question. But Kenny, I think we're in the age of monitoring now. I don't think people are going to have a choice. I think just given what we've seen the last year, monitoring is not going to be optional. So it just gets around to how are you going to monitor, what technology you're going to use to monitor, and to your point, conductivity, the ease of conductivity is, I think, a key component. But to monitor or not to monitor, that is no longer the question.
I agree.
Right, 100%. And at the end of the day, I mean, Kenny, you already mentioned it. I mean, connectivity ultimately is everything's connected, but where? A server somewhere, right? Which is an on-premise or an off-premise cloud data center, right? So, our continued focus on ensuring that data centers are safe from an environmental perspective, and really get the airflow required to drive system optimization. When we're talking about connectivity, everything's connected, and it's connecting back to a server. So RLE has taken that approach for our mission critical business to ensure that data centers are optimized with the environmental conditions. And I think I've thought about this a lot, and I've had a number of conversations with some different control folks, and control folks are always trying to create optimization and system performance, right? And the data center will spend $5 million to create cold air, but the last thing that cold air touches before it hits the floor into the room, assuming it's a raised floor environment, is the raised floor tile. So RLE has been a leader in performance airflow tiles, driving air from the floor up with a stratification fin patented on the bottom of the tile to ensure these racks are staying cool. I was just in a data center a couple of weeks back, and we took one of our panels and dropped it into space, and there was so much air that was volatile underneath the floor. But as soon as we put this performance tile in, like, it could breathe. and it like the air just started shooting out, and immediately that rack space dropped 15 degrees.
Whoa. Wow.
I mean, talk about return on investment. It's not going to take long for that few $100 tile to go ahead and pay for itself.
It's the taste. So most people aren't using these type tiles. Is that a unique product that you guys have?
Well, it is. Yeah, I mean, actually, it is. It's a patented tile that has a stratification fin on the bottom that's creating volatile air to really direct it towards the data cabinet 3 to 7 feet better than just a typical perf tile.
My gosh, the payback on that's got to be like milliseconds.
It really is. I mean, literally. I mean, when you see it in action, and you see the controls guys spending all the time in the world creating different logic blocks and all that, tons of respect for those guys. Super duper smart. But they're walking on the floor and they don't realize that there's another product that if they just dropped it in the existing 2 foot by 2 foot square, how much of an impact it can have. So I wanted to take a moment really to kind of brag on the triad line of air performance products that RLE provides, because every one of the guys and gals that are listening to this are part of the Controltrends community, have probably somebody or are working in a data center of some sort. And I just wanted to make sure it was aware that, it's as simple as, I mean, it almost looks like these 2 by 2 tiles on this picture here on the grid. You just literally pick one up and you drop it in. there's no other work involved except for making sure you got the stratification fin on the bottom angled in the right direction so that the air can scoop up and up into the space. So, and
Well, Mike, that sounds like another. Next time we have you come on, we're going to have you do an in-depth presentation on the triad towels, because I think again, I've been in data centers and I know what you're talking about. I remember when we were putting the probes, the temperature, the little bullet sensors, every so many inches, and then we'd get back and look at it and see what was it. And it was just really difficult, to get constant. The right temperature, keep it there, and prove it. But so you're saying this triad tile, the stratification fins make all the difference. Huh? Yeah, I'd like to. Derek, I'd love to see that in depth, right, Derek?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it was. We had one of our temp humidity transmitters on the middle of the rack, top, middle, bottom on the front, top, middle, bottom on the back, following standard guidelines. And it wasn't more than 5 minutes that it literally dropped 15 degrees. I think it was showing about 106 degrees, and it dropped to about 90, 91, something like that. Literally in just, no time at all. So, just be mindful that all the little things and tips and tricks that you're doing, you're walking over the obvious. And some people say you're walking over watermelons to pick up grapes, right? So be mindful that, there are some of those things out there that, and we'd love to talk to you about them. There's other things too, like the pleniform that, separates out some of the underfloor that may not being used, some gap fill products. We actually launched a grommet product. Instead of those little whiskers that typically you see inside of those grommets, it's a foam that wraps around the cable, so it literally locks out 50% more of the airflow. And again, being mission critical, that was one of the big things that RLE is always focused on is providing superior airflow performance and environmental monitoring. And with the growth of the data centers, we can't ignore it, right? How are we connected today, right? We're all connected in different cities and states right now, all because of data centers. And if they were to fall out, we wouldn't be doing this. We'd be on a maybe a telephone call or some long range walkie talkies or something.
Oh no, it's amazing the data centers and the surge of them just showing up everywhere. From the communications. I remember, the Armstrong, Comcast, all these buildings just went up, and it was amazing. Each one of them was just a little, not a little, but a very relatively geographically favorable location. It was a data center, and it was there's a lot of work being done there. And you're right. I don't think I've ever heard of the towel stratification fins ever. And I've heard raised floors. We went through that. That was a big thing.
Right.
Johnson was pushing that, and then there was where you could relocate the different. You had 18 inches of raised floor, whatever it was. I forget. Never sold one. We bid on them, but we never won them. But I learned about it, and it seemed like a really interesting concept, because after so many floors of a building, you could save a floor. It was all kinds of interesting things it was supposed to do, but I don't really know how well it succeeded. I don't think in our market it was very successful. But yeah, it's always something to learn to do. Something new to learn every day. I think we.
Well, hang on a second, Kenny. Real quick. Ask that question, but after you do that, before you take this slide down. I'm very interested, Michael, to know when to use Wi-Fi versus wings. So, Kenny, you asked your question first, but Mike, just don't take that slide down before you answer that. You've got me curious.
No, that's I was going back to our itinerary here, so to speak. We've covered IAQ. We'll come back to that probably in the summary. The wireless security, continuous monitoring, manpower, cost project. So now we're into the Wi-Fi and wings. So it's perfect entrance point.
Yeah, a little segue here. We actually just had a webinar, which I'll forward you guys the link once we release it to share off to your community as well. But we're often asked a lot about, what's the difference between our radio versus our Wi-Fi, and some pros and cons between the two. And a lot of times I like to take a step back, and first and foremost, what data do you want and why do you want it? And more importantly, what are you going to do with it, right? Once you get the data, are you going to use it for control logic? Are you using it just to protect a space? Are you using it to push to a dashboard for visualization? Maybe you're pushing it, as Kenny, you mentioned, for an indoor air quality dashboard to ensure that you're providing a safe environment. But we're looking at it from a similar perspective when you're looking at a Wi-Fi versus a wing radio transmission. Wi-Fi as a whole, as long as you have an existing infrastructure and you're looking for some of these points like the temp humidity or our newly released Wi-Fi leak detection or our also newly released Wi-Fi one-wire sensor, we're going to be able to continue to build off of the momentum on that Wi-Fi side. But keep in mind, you're still reliant on an existing Wi-Fi infrastructure. So if something happens that an infrastructure, you don't have any data, right? So, Wi-Fi versus wing, it's, our Wi-Fi line is those three main sensors I've talked about, the temp humidity, the leak detection, and the one wire. But our radio side is a little more flexible, as I've already shown off, kind of the analog, the leak detection, the thermistor, and a couple other things as well. So what is the environment that you're ultimately trying to get into? Because maybe it's not an IP environment. Maybe it's one of those legacy buildings with a Modbus RTU trunk or a BACnet MSTP trunk. We have a little brother to our wing manager that is more zonal wireless for up to 50 sensors. And actually Thursday after our webinar call, my colleague had sent us some pictures of her partner that had put a variety of these in a 10-story high rise, the BMS wing, just kind of strategically located in these different areas. And there was a leak in the penthouse. Well, the integrator was smart enough to integrate the leak alarm into a valve to close. So when they got that alarm notification, it closed the valve, minimizing massive catastrophes every floor down.
Wow. Wow.
And that's when I often talk about enabling connectivity, right? I mean, what do you want to do with it? What's the alarm status that you're looking for? So, only because I've had success everywhere I've gone inside of every building I've ever stepped into with our radio transmitters, just because it's 900 megahertz, don't be afraid of it. I can get the signal further and better displaced throughout a building, especially using our range extenders, which again is not reliant on any network. It's our own internal wireless talking back to the wing manager, and then the wing manager again is housing all of that data as well. So here's some pros and cons of Wi-Fi. Obviously, the connectivity into the existing infrastructure. The battery life is still roughly 5 years and on an interval of about 5 minutes. It's still easy to integrate. But the con really is the big one, is the relying on the infrastructure. Some of the other pros of the radio is the transmissions of every 10 to 20 seconds, secure one-way transmissions, great line of sight, as well as the ability to penetrate through some walls. But I threw the con up there, number one, as the expectations of a single gateway, because everybody wants to only deploy one little unit that's expected to do everything everywhere. And as close as everything to everywhere we can get, the likelihood is we're probably pretty close to being able to do it. But, just put realistic expectations around it. And then here was the slide I was ultimately trying to get to. Because this kind of just shows the overall layout of what wireless can really deliver. You have your wireless Wi-Fi, temp humidity, leak detection, and one wire sensors up there. We got our differential air pressure. Actually, Kenny, you reminded me that was one that I wanted to mention as well. You were talking about filter status, I believe, earlier, being able to get pressure inside of a filter area, air velocity. Eric, you had mentioned, I believe, the CO2 or carbon monoxide just straight down in the kind of left of that camera picture there. That's a hydrogen sensor that we've deployed in a lot of battery charging areas.
Is it ACI?
That is an ACI sensor.
Yeah, I recognize
those guys. You know that one. They got great products, and we love working with them too. So, as a whole, all of this is really what you're after, because it could be standalone or it could be integrated. We have our enterprise system there at the top, but It's all BACnet, Modbus, SNMP. So
Well, for clarification, Mike, are you saying that you have an IP camera going into the Wing Manager?
well, I'm glad you asked because I'm often asked that question. And what we're doing here is taking an environmental condition and triggering a camera to start recording based on that condition with
I
the
see.
relay
Okay.
output.
All
Yeah.
right.
So we have 2 relay outputs built on this. So I just wanted to show that functionality because again, we're in this pandemic together, right? And we're all trying to get back to buildings. But for the last year, there's a lot of people that are remote. Buildings are empty. Different spaces are empty. So, you can still
You can
create.
tie that into an occupancy sensor and you got yourself a mini security setup there, huh? If somebody breaks opens the door and walks in, it can
Yeah.
enable the camera. That's pretty slick.
Right.
I'm sure
Yeah.
there's ways to do it, but that seems to be an interesting way to do it.
There's a lot of ways to do it. Right. Exactly. And, there's a digital input there as well. And then just to the right, I believe that's another ACI pipe strap sensor. We've worked with a variety of different property managers that are actually deploying this on water boilers on the hot water pipes. So that they can get alarms more expeditiously, letting them know that hot water's failed or the boiler has failed or there's an issue with that prior to getting calls from 50 different residents or tenants inside of a space.
Michael, let's go over the one more time the products from my left to my right, so that talk about each product. And again, so these are
Sure.
analog transmitters on the very far left here.
The very far left, my left is 3 products on the top.
Well,
Right.
why don't we just start with under enabling conductivity on that side? Because
All right.
you guys are pointing in different directions and I'm not sure that they line up. So
Yep.
underneath enabling conductivity, right there, those top 3, what are they?
Yep.
Start there.
Great. So thanks for asking. Yeah, the enabling connectivity is a big piece that I believe RLE's really driving inside of a variety of different spaces. The top 3 products on the left there is our temp humidity Wi-Fi transmitter. In the middle with the orange cable is our Wi-Fi leak detection. We also have a Wi-Fi spot detection. Then there's also the Wi-Fi one wire, which is commonly used inside of maybe a refrigerator or a freezer, or I've seen other people actually wrap it around a pipe, kind of like a pipe strap sensor, but kind of a little different way. I've seen other folks actually pop it into a duct.
How long is that cable? There's varying lengths that you can get. So like
5 feet is the standard length cable, but you could put an RJ11 connector. So you can put a connector on there, and typically I'd recommend not going really more than 200 feet with it, but it is Wi-Fi enabled. So I mean, as long as you kind of get that probe where you need it, and then you have Wi-Fi, I mean, you can really mount the transmitter wherever you want. And then just below that so that's our Wi-Fi line, and the 2 on the right, the leak detection and the one wire, have just been released. So these are brand new products for RLE. They're based on the success and the proven Wi-Fi transmission, encryption, and everything that the temp humidity transmitters had. So we're super excited about those and think that, from what we're hearing, I mean, you tell me, I think a lot of people are asking for Wi-Fi sensors. But that integration of those is sometimes a little challenging. And then also the battery life is typically an issue too.
Michael, I want to go back to that the one wire cable. Have you created a level detector or level indicator that you have? That would be a very interesting feature to put into a wireless mode. If you could see what the level for tanks were, for instance,
Oh, like a float sensor or something?
Yeah, because I mean, we have several applications with that, and they're always hardwired, and you always have to have a mounting bracket. There's always they have different level things, or if as the level goes down, if it's like a Christmas tree lights, it falls down and dangles, so you finally know your tank's less than half full. But boy, that would be slick.
So yeah, I mean, there's a couple different ways to accomplish that. Actually, here I got a new way to accomplish that. I just thought of for you, Kenny. So our spot detector is built on potted electronics. Now we've actually used that in a reverse environment where instead of alarming on a water leak, we're alarming on water drying up. So it's kind of kind of a similar approach that, hey,
Interesting, yeah.
inside of a tank, I've reached this level and my spot detector dried up because of the quick dry technology built into it. And again, it's potted electronics, so you can leave it in water for as long as you want. And as soon as it dries off, it just has that reverse function.
Interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, any tank environment, we can with 100% confidence go ahead and deliver that. Again, assuming it's conductive fluid in that tank.
Well, typically it's water, and then we have like everything from sewage to whatever. It's just you never know what the people need. But anyhow, that is a very interesting concept. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, that'd be one way to do it. But then if you could energize a float sensor, I mean, again, you can take the 0 to 10 value into an analog transmitter as well. So there's, again, sometimes let's sit down, let's think about what you want to accomplish and really put some goals and strategy around it. And there's probably a pretty likely way that we can accomplish that. So I'm glad you asked about that. That's actually a really good application to think about. And then, so if we're good on the Wi-Fi, so that's our Wi-Fi line right now. So you can see it's a little narrow in scope, but we do have, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but CO2 is a big deal right now. And I know that we can connect our analog transmitter to any CO2 sensor, but let's keep our eyes on the horizon. Let's just say we may have something coming up in the near future that may connect temp, humidity, and CO2 all in one, which really is going to drive that indoor air quality discussion and really simplify that process as well. So,
yeah. Now, guys,
little future plug there. I'm trying to just kind of sprinkle it a little bit.
Little foreshadowing, I think, is a literary term.
Product ahead, yeah.
Product ahead. Beware, product ahead. Yeah.
So just hang on there. All right. But again, if you needed to accomplish it today, plug it into an analog transmitter and the output and walk away. Yeah. So if you're looking for costing of any of the technology, there's a couple of great vendors we work with, and obviously Jackson Control and Stromquist would be a couple of ways to get it. We're preferred vendors inside of CG&A as well. So let's not forget to validate that and do a lot of work inside of a variety of other associations and data center associations like AFCOM as well. So, we're super excited to be able to provide this technology to a variety of folks, helping to solve a variety of problems with unique, flexible technology. And keep in mind, again, I mean, we're built for mission critical. So I'm not looking to tell you that we provide the lowest cost, cheapest product. We're probably not. But what you're gaining is the ability to peace of mind, knowing it's going to work, peace of mind, knowing that it's built for mission critical where it's required to work. And if it fails, it has to have an immediate notification so you can go and remedy that. So we didn't try to build something that was just kind of the lowest cost to give you that option, because the other thing you're really saving, which in my mind is more important than anything, is time.
Yeah.
And manpower. I know we've talked about this way back when I was on before, but manpower is tough. It's tough to get. It's tough to gather. It's tough to maintain. It's tough to deploy. It's tough to schedule. So if we can simplify a job and take a week's worth of running wire and pulling integration and all of that down to a day or two.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a difference between you can get a skateboard a lot less expensive than you can get a car, but one, you're going to spend a lot more time getting to your destination than the other. So in the long run, it really works out well buying the car. Right. Michael, I tell you what, as we wrap it up, because we're going to need to wrap this up. It's been such a fascinating session. Anything else you want to hit on before we say goodbye to the audience?
I just keep up the good work, stay healthy, stay safe, be kind to one another. It's one of those things we're kind of in a weird spot right now, and everybody's getting a little stir crazy from staying at home and not going and having that casual lunch, work lunch or a beer after work. So fortunately, again, due to connectivity and our ability to have all of this technology run through the data centers, right, to keep us all connected, I'd say, let's contact Kenny or contact Eric for a demo
or any of the CG&A members.
Any of the CG&A members, and we have a great network outlined on our website as well with partners all across the globe. So should you have a need to see it, try it, so that you can believe in it. Anywhere that you plug it in, I think you can turn a lot of naysayers into yay-sayers.
Nice.
just by showing it and proving it, because that's really been the biggest challenge with wireless, is it's been kind of.
Mike, there was one thing I wanted to say real quick, might be a good conclusion, wrap up, is you recently were snowed in at a location, and for sport, you put together a rapid deployment of what you had with you to show for wherever you were doing the customer call. Tell us about that Marriott project and how quickly you did it and how the Marriott manager reacted to it.
So I was snowed in a Marriott in Michigan. I was supposed to be in a meeting, and I got a call that Wednesday morning that, sorry, too much snow, we're not going to make it. Well, I'm already there. So, after I get some emails out and have some coffee, have some breakfast, make some phone calls, you kind of get to about that lunchtime, and, you eat some lunch, and you're like, all right, I got to make a choice. What am I going to do? So it could go either way, right?
Wine or work, huh?
Yeah, right. So I said, hey, you know what? I got all this technology, and I'm asked all the time, will it work in this space? Right. And I'm always typically saying yes, because I haven't found a space that didn't, again, with reasonable expectations. So I went down to the manager at the Marriott, and I said, hey, I'm kind of stuck here. I got nothing really to do, but you're in a building that I'm often asked about, will my wireless technology work? Would you mind if I went and laid out about a dozen transmitters throughout the space? It was a 4-story hotel, that's kind of got that L look with the courtyard in the middle. Then on this side, you got all your pool and your cafeteria and all that stuff. And he kind of looked at me like, really? Sure, I guess, So I took my bag and I started plugging stuff in. I left one at the counter there. Then I went up to the second floor. I went to the pool. I was in the conference area. I went to the 4th floor, the 3rd floor, and I just started placing things in the stairwell and everywhere, literally everywhere. And, I was like, all right, well, let's just plug it in and see what happens, right? Because that's the only way really to know. So I plug it in without skipping a beat. All my sensors are talking every 10 to 20 seconds, except when I tried the environment where I kept it in the stairwell and I had no range extension or no wing manager near it. I expected it not to work, and it didn't. So it kind of proved my theory, right? But as soon as I took my range extender up to the 3rd floor, and I was on the 2nd floor on the other side of the building, and everything else in the cafeteria and the pool and everywhere else, everything was communicating flawlessly. So, with a high degree of confidence, I can tell you, don't be afraid of our radio transmissions. And I know I've worked with Jackson and Roger specifically on putting together kind of a MOB package for water leak detection and some basic monitoring around a 3 to 4 story building, basically to walk in and say, hey, I got your bathrooms, I got your mechanical closets, I got your wash tubs, I got everything covered, which are your big concerns right now. And I can tell you with a very, very high degree of confidence, you will not have any trouble with this communication. So, this was one thing that kind of helped validate that for me. Not that I had any concern about it before, but think about it. I'm going through 20 hotel rooms or more, with our wireless transmission on different floors. And, it was fun to walk around. And when I went down to tell him, because he kind of watched me in the camera too, he said, where I was walking. And the general manager was like, so did it work? And I was like, 100%, no questions asked, bud. So it's probably only going to be about 50 grand to get you covered.
You wanted to keep it. What?
We could keep it all here, right? No, but it was a good validation. I'm glad you asked, because it is one of those things when you walk into any building, you're always going to be asked, will it work? And the ultimate answer is, with reasonable expectations, yes, 100%, you will be able to aggregate data and create an outcome or enable connectivity to drive that outcome. So,
well said.
Michael, can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming on the show. Hey, when you get this new sensor out, come back on. We'd love to have you back on again. Best website for them to track you guys down at RLE Technologies?
Yep, RLETECH.com. RLE Tech is where you'd find us.
Nice.
Sales at RLE Tech will reach our sales team, which obviously I'm a part of. So should you have any questions, or again, would you like to request a demo, send in the subject line Controltrends, and we'll work out a little special spiff for you to make sure that we reward you for taking the time to listen here. And
I love that, man.
Nicely done.
Because in Chicago, man, they got all kinds of cool stuff like Chicago pizza, the Chicago Cub, Chicago pretzel, Chicago Wiener Schnitzel. I mean, all kinds of stuff, right, Kenny? So, Michael, thanks again, buddy. We really appreciate it. Stay safe, and again, many, many thanks.
Hey, thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your days. All right.
All right. See you, Mike.
Kenny, man, Michael Hadt, what a great guy, huh?
Yeah, he's got all the tools. He's got a passion for what he likes to do. He loves to do it. I mean, imagine being in a hotel room and having that tinker bell go off in your head, and you get to see if it works. Proof of concept. But anyhow, and then again, it is good technology. And I think anybody in the business has to really seriously revisit wireless and understand that there's just some very simplified presentations of information that you can do on a it doesn't require the big startup.
Monitoring is no longer optional, so it's just the most cost-effective way to do it. Kenny, I wanted to cycle back around a little bit before we brought Michael on. About my belief that the jobs are we're just not going to have as many jobs for people, and going to wax philosophical for a minute here, because one of the guys that influenced me a lot was a guy named Buckminster Fuller, and he's one of the greatest inventors in American history. Did the geodesic dome, so he's been dead for quite some time now. But back in, I think it was 1915 or 20, he did a study, right? And his study was basically, at that time, you could pay everybody but 10% of the people to stay home, pay them $25,000 or $30,000 a year, which would be a couple $100,000 a year in today's money, I suspect. And he just showed how the whole system would work. Everybody would be fed, everybody would be clothed. The whole system would work more efficiently. You use less energy because people are not, driving back and forth to work and all that stuff. And so it's interesting because, especially our generation, this is maybe where the younger people are really just have evolved to the point that they could work with this. But you think about, for me, guys like me and you, and Michael might not fall in that category because he looks like he's a little younger than us. God, I hate to say that, but it's like if you could just be set and they would give you money, but we were kind of raised that you had to go to work to establish your identity, right? I mean, we had to prove something, right? And
sure. Maslow's hierarchy.
Yes. So what would the Myers hierarchy be if all of a sudden supply is no longer an issue? And, it's like, 10% of the people are basically going to wind up working in the autonomous vehicles, and the baristas and all are going to be robots. I mean, what goes up?
Well, just real quick, piggyback off that, some of the greatest minds out there, Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Richard, the Virgin Airline guys.
Yeah, Branson.
I mean, they've already circled, had a powwow saying about a universal income. It's already been implemented in, I believe, 4 or 5 of the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, Denmark. They are paying people basically a subsidized living amount to stay in place and find ways to occupy yourself. Now, how I would do it, I don't know. I think we're conditioned by our environments. We have a great deal. There's 3 things. DNA, and then you have your
nature nurture thing.
Yeah, and then just so that I don't know. I believe that a society like the United States, it won't work as well as it would in certain other societies where they could agree to universal income and learn how to live your human existence out productively and satisfyingly. I think with all the incredible digital entertainment coming out, and augmented reality and putting the visor on. I just finished reading Ready Player 2. It's a fun book about kind of a futuristic version where you live inside of an avatar, or and basically live in the digital version and representation of the world. I mean, it probably will get there. Yeah, I see it. It'll be a choice.
It is funny because and I think the younger folks are more adapted to that, and where Musk and these guys are so smart is if you study history, I mean, anytime the wealth gets too far up and people are going hungry, they just have a revolution and kill those people and take it anyway. So where I think they're really smart is they're going, yeah, let's go ahead and make sure that they're taken care of at least economically and food wise and housing wise, but then sort of that self-actualization thing. And my buddy Anthony Bronzo, who is, Ken Sinclair, takes a young person to lunch, to study with this guy for years. I got one guy who's pushing 80 that I talk to about once a month. And Anthony he's old now. I think he's like 18. But he's big into the virtual reality stuff, right? And I mean, this guy does deep dives and stuff, where you put the mask on, and he's saying that in his opinion, those people in that augmented reality world really think that's going to replace the internet and everything else. You're never going to leave your house. You're going to sit there with one of those things on, and you're going to be, hey, Kenny, you want to go to Rome today? Sure. And you're there. And they're saying even within that, they've got all these little sub work cultures so that you can earn money, virtual money in these things to buy stuff in this virtual world, kind of like Ready Player One. I mean, that might just be very, just a harbinger of what could be happening.
The problem is, I mean, we have two different states. We have the physical state and the mental state. The physical state will atrophy. If you don't have, if you sit in your, some of these jobs that we have, you're sedentary for 8 hours, 10 hours a day, or driving or whatever, you have a tendency to get a pouchy stomach unless you got, a whole lot of vigor to, work out before or after. But, that'll be an issue. Is how do you keep the human temple, happy, and how do you prevent, how do you live longer if you don't have a, physical regimen that,
But dude, you might have hit something, another point, which is because with the advances in medical technology, I mean, I think death could very easily become optional unless it's a freak sort of thing, right? Because they're hacking the DNA and all this stuff with this artificial intelligence. So it could be that God, what was that movie you and I saw? I think Justin Timberlake was in it, where they had hacked it. So instead of having the currency was time, you had a watch. So if I wanted to buy something from Kenny, I would maybe give him an hour, right, out of my thing. But when your time went up, that was it. They made you into sausage or whatever, and that was the deal. So.
Dog food, yeah. Well, that's the thing with Ready Player 2 is that, like you say, you don't die anymore. In other words, you can transpose, or you become a digital person that never dies. And actually, anybody that puts this headset on, they take a complete mind print of everything, every thought you ever had. Of course, it's futuristic and science fiction, but the reality is, you're right. It could track everything's a bit now. So everyone's neural impulses and whatever can be converted to a 0 or a 1 and then stored indefinitely, and then you'd never lose any of your loved ones. Everything, the whole world, this construct would change. So that's getting a little bit outside.
I think we're outside of our purview here. So for our audience here, hopefully you enjoyed that little journey into fantasy land with me and Kenny. But I think it doesn't hurt sometimes to do thought experiments, because we might be closer to what's going to happen than not.
Well,
but that being said, let's thank our community and let them know we appreciate them. And Michael Hadt from RLE Technology. And anything else you want to say before you hop off, Kenny?
No, just visit Controltrends. We had a couple posts. Some of the Valve Basics webinar connection for Siemens. We did Contemporary Controls February newsletter. We did RLE Technology webinar. So we're going to have we're emphasizing RLE Technology as our guest, and we have a post for the week. J2 Innovations. Project Haystack, making sense of data. So it's right along the themes that we're talking about. So again,
I think Project Haystack will have something special for you next week. So we'll bring them on. And Kenny, and sort of in light of our new sort of a conversation, I'm going to end this show by saying, Ready Player 3. Remember, be bold, stay in control, and stay healthy. Stay relevant.
Yeah,
indeed, Kenny Smyer. Indeed, Player 3. So there you go, buddy. All right, man. We'll see you guys next week.
All right.